Good morning. I'm calling the meeting to order. Approval of minutes for Tuesday, June 18, 2024. A motion?
I have a change. It looks like there are guests listed and I don't think we had any guests last time. It was time prior to that, so we need to just take those off. I think. Did we have guests last time? It was the time before that, right? It was 2 times ago, 2 meetings ago. So I think it says that there are guests that were here. Travis Tormanen and with Winter Engineering and Shannon Joseph with Civil West.
That's
So
fine. You're right.
anyway.
Might have been 3 times ago.
Okay, so
And with those changes, I approve.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Amber.
Mhm.
All right, public comment. Jen,
Hi, Jen.
come on up.
Hi. Jan Seabrook Warman, P O Box 778. I just wanted to say thanks again for trying to answer my questions about the resiliency project. I'm still working on understanding it all, so bear with me. Please, I may have questions in the future, near future. And also I wanted to make a request. Could we please have Daniel Williard of the Water Department, Public Works, to give us another update on our springs and such, how the summer's gone, maybe next month, if he has time, or maybe September. I think he usually does it maybe in September. I just wanted to put that on the agenda if that's okay.
So just so I understand, Jen, what you're asking for, an update on,
Our water supply,
okay,
you know, how he talks about the springs and the rainfall and
yes.
all that stuff, just.
So we would,
Yearly thing, but I just would like to make sure.
yeah, typically in the fall, because then they can tell you what the demand was over the summer, which is our peak time. So October timeframe would be most appropriate for that. So we'll put that as an agenda item.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jen.
Jen. All right, let's move on to utility relief request. I have the application for Bruce Shelby.
Is that the first one? Okay,
That is.
okay.
That is.
It looks like all the criteria are met for relief on this. I move to approve the relief request.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
You? All right, motion has been moved, approved, and any discussion? No? All right, let's move on to Schneider.
Okay, this one, I don't quite understand. The staff recommendation was to approve, that's what my notes say. You might want to double check that. And it appeared that what was finally discovered, that it was a toilet tank flapper. In that case, 100% of the water goes into the sewer. So that's per the plumber bill, so I don't understand why this would be approved.
I concur. Yeah, in fact, with the information that I see here, it looks like they do not meet the criteria for relief.
So.
So I move to deny that request based on what Doug just said, and that is that everything went into the sewer and was treated.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Okay, motion has been moved and approved. All right, let's move on to Sparks.
And this one, this looks like a mainline, our service line leak, which would qualify for relief. It looks like they fixed it by rerouting it around the deck. But I also note there was no staff recommendation on this one, so I don't know what's kind of going on there.
I think since they didn't find the leak, then, I mean, they did make some changes that apparently lessened the water use, or if there was a leak. I mean, they didn't find it. So we don't know whether it went into the sewer and there was something else going on, or whether it was actually a leak that was underneath the deck and the reroute of the plumbing fix that, so it's hard to identify exactly where that was.
I'm going under assumption there, maybe the fact that it is an assumption merits a follow-up. I don't know. It just looked like based on their drawings and which was all outside the house.
Yeah.
They rerouted it around the deck because they couldn't find it. I assume that fixed it. And if that's the case, it was a service line leak and it would qualify. It's just a matter of whether you want more.
Yeah, or maybe they at the same time changed their toilet flap.
Do we have
I don't-
any
you know,
information if
I'm
they
just
have
saying.
ion water?
Let me look at their account real quick, if their leak status.
Which the ion water status should not weigh into your decision, just as a
I don't
reminder.
know Whether they actually, if they have noticed any other leaks or anything like that,
Right.
because that's what we're talking about.
So-
Whether they fix it or not.
You'll notice that Sherry includes in your packet, their average usage. So that
Yeah.
tells us, kind of answers some of those items,
Yeah.
that you'd be wondering about.
At the bottom.
And we did not make a recommendation for a reason. We were back and forth on this and
Oh.
left it up to the committee to make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
you
the
could-
verification would be is if the usage went back to normal after this
Right.
rerouting. I mean, if that's why. I mean, to me, it's pretty straightforward.
Yes
but-
and no.
Yes and no? Okay.
Because, I mean, you can say that something else may have corresponded with this reroute. I'm not saying that's the case. I think there's a 99%
Yeah,
chance
I
that
mean,
it was
you could
here.
almost say that on every
And,
one.
Well, yeah, I guess you can. But if they never found or located the leak is what I'm saying, then how do we know that?
And their usage would have continued to be high.
Right, if it went back to normal.
I'm playing the devil's advocate.
Super devil's advocate.
I move to approve.
Yay, okay. And I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
I-
Aye. Any discussions? More discussion? No. Okay, thank you. Motion has been moved and approved. Okay, the next one, Cannon Beach Community Church.
This one could be fun too. Again, no staff recommendation. Maybe that's for a reason. They called it an irrigation leak, which wouldn't qualify for relief. Submitted a repair bill that was really, unless you see something else on your computers there, it was just a backflow test bill. It wasn't any type of repair bill. It's for a routine backflow test in June. So for a couple reasons. Number one, it's an irrigation leak, which doesn't qualify. And number two, it doesn't seem like the repair bill really relates to repairing of any leak.
Do I have a motion to?
I think Steve wants to say something.
Well, the irrigation leak didn't go into into the sewer system.
Don't we have a specific
Yes.
clause on our form that,
Oh,
personally, I never really wanted, but it's there
yeah.
and it's even in bold. The irrigation and components do not qualify. And,
Concur.
Do I
okay,
have a
So-
motion?
I,
Oh,
yeah, I'll do it again. I move to deny based on the
Do I have
information.
a second?
and I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any discussion, more discussion? No. All right, good job, guys. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to action items. Oh, wait, sorry, discussion and information items. There we go. Okay.
Status, ready? Okay, want to make sure I was with you. All right, a little status of where we are. We got both signatures from the two families in Haystack Heights that are going to allow us to cut through the setback area of their property and get into Haystack Heights to finally loop that water system. That's being recorded with the county. So we're going to prep for an RFP to be awarded to an engineering firm to design and engineer that. We have a rough design, but they need to proof that out with survey and whatnot. So I'm waiting for those quotes to come back. I think it's due on the 22nd. And we will get started on that project. The bridge, what Civil West is doing right now is they're preparing an RFP to bring on a structural engineer to do the next phase of the evaluation. They're gonna have to do some digging and whatnot But that's gonna be based on kind of a seasonal situation where they can dig effectively. So he's gonna give us a status on that once they get the RFQ ready to go. Water resiliency, we have the RFP out right now for construction for phase 2. We're gonna have an open bid on that at the end of the month. I think we do it on the 31st. And we have our mandatory pre bid meeting on Wednesday. So any of the contractors that wants to bid on this project, they have to show up for the mandatory site walk. So they'll come here in City Hall, we do a briefing and then go out to the site, answer any questions they might have. And do the bid opening at the end of the month. So we'll know who gets awarded that job for that project. Business Oregon will be coming out to Cannon Beach sometime the end of the month. They haven't confirmed their date yet. But they do an annual meeting of all the projects that they have funded in the state of Oregon. And they'd like to profile the water resiliency project. So we'll be giving them a briefing during that meeting. Take them out to the site, probably where the new proposed water tank is gonna be. That's really the only thing they can see that's above ground. Everything else is underground. But they'll get, the whole committee will get a feel for the lay of the land out here and what the undertaking is for this project, despite the delays. So that's gonna be a nice opportunity.
What is this is Oregon? Is that like a PBS or something? Or what?
Business Oregon is who handles all the federal funding
Oh,
for the state, and it gets disseminated out into the districts,
oh,
communities that put applications in.
that's important.
But they're under Suzanne Bonamici's team that does all the federal loan handling for the state of Oregon for infrastructure. So they're the folks that we had to go in front of to pitch our cause to get the funding for this project, all phases of the project.
I think it's excellent that they're coming here.
Yeah,
I did.
important visit.
Yeah, they wanted to do it. So I got a call last Friday when I was on the road going to a meeting and they said, what would you feel about this? And I said, absolutely.
Come on down.
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
25 of them. They wanted to make sure there was space for them to do a meeting and see the project and stuff. So
That is great.
absolutely.
They'll be able to see firsthand the
Yes.
challenges.
Yeah, I'm anxious to get them up to the site so they can really see how this tank will be put together up there and just kind of the topography that is being dealt with. And I think it'll be good for them to put eyes on it, that they know about the delay that we are encountering with the easement and that we're having to go through the condemnation process. So they're aware of that. And I think it'll be good for them to be able to just put eyes on that area. I think it'll put a lot of things in perspective. And so I'm anxious for that. We'll be doing a tour for 2 communities that have asked to see the cache sites. Janae, you were with us when the last group of folks came. There's 2 more communities that want to see it. So there's going to be about 20 people, I think, come for that. So Trevor and I are winging it while Rick's position's been posted, but obviously not filled yet. So we're the stand-in with the help of Rick's volunteers. And so that's been nice. But they're basically taking what Rick's created here and they're trying to model that in their areas. So they want to come see how we have the cache sites set up, what vehicle Rick used to get a lot of the things at the cache sites. What we put inside the cache sites and our communications and just everything. So we have another one of those coming up. I could use some help from the committee if you guys are open to this. One of our goals this past budget year was to audit all of our streets in Cannon Beach and get them in our GIS system as far as the status of the maintenance. So any streets that are paved, we wanted to take it from a spreadsheet that crews have been using since 1972 and get rid of that and put it in our GIS, but it is no small undertaking. And I had resisted getting the committee involved for the simple fact that when you have multiple eyes looking at something, everybody's perspective is slightly different. And so not being road pavers, it can be challenging. So I think I found a way that I can create a scale for you guys that would allow you to split up the town and audit, block to block, what the street condition is, and bring it back to us to be able to feed to our GIS support gal, and she can slowly but surely load all that into our GIS system. So I'm gonna work on that. I'll bring it back and show you what the undertaking would look like, but I'd like to try to take advantage of this dry season because roads look a lot different when they're wet than they do when they're dry. So if that's something you're interested in, I could
Fine, I have to.
definitely use your help.
Okay.
Carolyn did it for us years ago, and she had some help. And it was pretty good. It wasn't perfect, but it got us a long way for catching up for the current condition. And so I've tried to keep up that spreadsheet every time we do an overlay or we're doing patches somewhere. I try to update that so that it's easier to get into GIS. But it's gonna look different when it's in the system. So it's requiring us to do another audit. I can't just take what's in this spreadsheet and give it to the gal. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So we're gonna make another pass at it. And like I say, if you guys are open to it, I'd love to have the help. I'll either email it out to you guys so you can get a look at it ahead of time, and we'll talk about it on the next month's meeting. And if it's something you're interested in, I'd want to hit the ground running as soon as possible, like I say, to capture this dry weather. And if you're not available, don't be afraid to say no. My other outside demands just don't allow me to do it. I just want to throw it out to everybody. So you can do it at your own pace as far as the hours of the days of the week, the weekends. I don't really care how you guys want to go out about managing it. Is just getting the deed done is what we're looking for.
Paved streets only.
These are paved streets only. The gravel streets will be done a little bit differently. We'll identify them as gravel streets, but the maintenance on those are very different, obviously, than the paved streets. And so we have to put some more thought into how we want to manage that on GIS. It may not even call for us to manage it on GIS. I mean, you're talking just constant pothole filling and scraping a contour, to keep the water flowing in the direction that we want. So it's a very different process than paving. So I think for first and foremost, let's get our paved streets in, get a maintenance scale set up that's realistic and something that the guys can manage and keep up in the system. And then we'll decide how we want to do the gravel ones. So when you do the audit, I'll just simply have you identify that block as gravel and don't do anything more than that. Okay.
I'm in.
When we did this, the last time we did it in pairs, so that worked out pretty well, just so you guys know. Are you, would you like other people to help other than just the committee? I mean, we can train them to go out with one of us and do that. That may speed up the process.
I'd like to stick with the committee if I could, simply because it's easier for us to talk about it routinely every month. And it's easier for you guys to get with me and ask questions. If there's anything out in the field that you say, hey, we're seeing this on the street, how do you want us to document that in case anything is overlooked? I think, if it got too large, I think it'd be hard for us to manage, and it's going to become fragmented where, again, the eyes looking at it have to be really tight on how they're perceiving alligatoring in a street.
Right.
And so, like I say, hopefully the model that I create for you is something that makes it easier, but let's have you guys look at it first and see what you think. And if you feel that there's other skilled volunteers on other teams within the city's committees that you could recruit that could grasp this, let's do it. Okay.
Amber's got her hand up.
Amber?
Thank you. Yeah. Just a question. I'm remembering that the last time we talked about this, maybe it was last year, you, Karen, were looking into potentially for greater accuracy and exactly what you're saying in terms of audit. I think you were looking into drone or some other tech solution. What happened with that? Because wouldn't that be more accurate?
Yeah, and I gave you guys an update on that on one of our meetings is the regulations regarding drones and people being in the drone picture prevents us from doing this. The drone's got to be low enough that it can get a good picture of the street. And when you do that, it captures people, license plates and whatnot at a level that we're not allowed to use that technology. So any of the drone providers have got to phase all that out of the picture, which is going to impact the visual you're seeing on the street. It's almost impossible to do it and not capture that. And it's a lot of work for the drone company to phase that out. So they have not purified that process. They used to use this, but now the regulations changed to where like I say, you can't have those things in the vision and then hand that off to some agency. And so they have kind of put a standstill on that until they can figure out a way to do this a little more effectively. And so that option's not open for us. The company that assisted Jeff Adams with the TSP does a lot of drone work on shoreline erosion. And they're one of the companies that had been using this for street evaluations in larger metropolitan areas, and it was very effective. But when you get into a small town like ours, where the drone's going to have to be much lower to be able to pick up the clarity of the street, it's also going to pick up the things that they're no longer allowed to pass to an outside agency. So.
Got it. What was that company's name, just out of curiosity? I totally understand. I'm sorry that I missed that explanation whenever you gave it previously.
Yeah, it's okay. So we'll go back to the way we had been doing it until we see if there's something other. Doesn't mean that we won't consider that technology to update our GIS system at some point down the road. No pun intended. But for now, this gets all of our stuff in there at this initial cursory level. And I think it'll serve the purpose and get us away from that spreadsheet, you know.
So Karen, I think Amber wanted to know the name of the company that.
Oh,
So
I'll have to go back and look at Jeff's TSP meetings and see. He had a RFP out for three different drone companies, and we interviewed all three of them when we were considering who to use for the shoreline. And this is when that came up. So off the top of my head, Amber, I have no idea. I'll have to go back and look.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
It's hard to make everybody fuzzy these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I never considered. You know, and even, you know, we talked about the hour of the day that you could do it to probably not capture much of that and make it less intensive for them to have to deal with it. But they just said they're not even offering it at this point until they can figure out a better way to do it.
Interesting question, seeing that we're all on security, like you live in Portland, you're on a security camera all the time, whether you're going into the polls or Mason.
Drone is launched in Cannon Beach, my phone rings off the hook.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah,
Really.
I mean, it's-
Yeah, it's probably more of a public perception thing, because obviously there's no big right to privacy anymore. You walk around any street in an urban area.
Better off of people just driving the streets with a camera doing it versus the drone thing, but there's got to be a better way to do it. But for right now, this is.
But you're right, the reaction's just gotta be over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not
I'm
worth
in.
it.
So I'm looking forward to the information.
Yeah,
next month.
I'll get that together, and my goal will be to have it in your hands in next month's meeting. And if I can get it done sooner, then I'll send it out to you and say, this is what we'll be reviewing and talking about. Okay,
Great.
all right. That's all I got for Public Works. Trevor, anything?
Center Street beach access is nearing completion.
Yeah.
The stair system has been installed to make sure everything fits. Now it's been disassembled and it's going to get galvanized. And then once that's done, it's gonna be installed and we'll be done. And the access will be open.
That's been a brutal one.
So tell people just, we're almost there.
Yeah.
Main thing is everything fit perfectly.
Good.
Nice.
Modifications.
Yeah.
Karen, where in Haystack Hills is the access going to be for the redundancy project that you just got approval for?
Haystack Heights.
Haystack Heights, not Haystack Hills.
Pardon me, Haystack.
So across the highway, is where Haystack Heights is. So you go Warren Way exit and you go east instead of towards Talivana State Park. And that takes you up to Haystack Heights. And there's basically one way in and one way out of that neighborhood.
Right.
And so way back when the master plans were done, that was identified as a project that the fire department had talked about for many years, feeling like the city should have never let that neighborhood continue to develop until they solve the water line issue to get that looped and enable them to be able to fight a fire should those woods that are directly behind that catch fire, or even a structure within the neighborhood. Their concern is about the water pressure up in that area. So this was a top priority in the master plans, but we did not have a way to get in the neighborhood to be able to loop the line. Every lot in there was almost built out, and the few that were not, we were trying to work with private parties to see if there'd be a way we could get an easement to go through the lot. And if they didn't want to give us an easement, the city would consider purchasing the vacant lot to be able to get in the neighborhood. So all last year, this is what we've been working on. Really, there were only 2 lots that were viable for us to bring our water line from the west side of Highway 101 and bore underneath that and get up into that neighborhood. So our options were very, very limited. And we had a session with the council, told them what the options were, and said we're kind of in a now or never position, because if these lots were to be built out, it'd be highly unlikely that people that have homes would let us go through a 5-foot setback to get there. It may not even be possible with a 5-foot setback. So they gave us permission to move forward to negotiate easement and or purchase the lot if the owners did not want to do an easement. And so that's what we did. We got 2 families to agree. One has a house on it, one is a vacant lot. And they both agreed to give up 5 feet of their setback, which gives us 10 feet to operate within. And they gave us a temporary easement for construction where we can put our spoils when we dig. We got to put the dirt somewhere and stage our equipment and so on. And that portion goes away after the project is over. So we end up with this 10-foot easement, 5 foot on each side. And so it was a great partnering between 2 families and enabled the city to get in the neighborhood and do a very critical project that
Nice.
have never been done. Yeah. So it was a nice little victory with the help of 2 great families. So that was a big relief for the city to be able to get that project on its way. So
That's great.
Excellent.
before something tragic happens, so. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anything for the good of the order? No? Okay, it's nice out there. The weather is great, so go out there.
Farmers Market Day.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Go do some good out there. Thanks.
Thanks, you guys.